هاي وروجي عراق تخمين من بيت سيباتي
عراق ونية بارتكي ونية هكذا عراق دولته
هاي الخطوة يساعدنا في خروج الاستعمار التي سيطرت على بلدنا.
People are designing films with built-in conflict from the beginning. And it's much more difficult to take ordinary real life that doesn't have this kind of built-in conflict, where you have to find the dramatic aspects of it, which could be much more subtle. In fiction, you're kind of limited to the things that you can invent, the things that are already in your mind, in the mind of the people that you work with, you know. But in documentary, you're limited only by the real world and your imagination of like your approach to the real world. That is, you have to storyboard the scene in your head, and while you're filming it, and the scene is changing and things are happening that you don't expect, and you have to react to the scene while it's going on. And it's like instead of classical music, where you're practicing and you know all of the notes of whatever Bach prelude or something like this, in documentary, you're playing improvisational jazz, you know. There isn't anything written down on the page. You have to make it up as you're going along, based on what's going on around you. Well, the piano player is doing this and the bass player is doing that, so I, with my saxophone, am going to do it, you know, react in this way. You have to play the environment. Like the fun part, as I see it, is taking a scene that happens in the real world, you know, like kids are getting their hair cut, for example, or kids are taking an exam, or someone is working at an auto shop, whatever it is. You see this thing is happening, and you think to yourself, if this were a fiction film, how would it be filmed, actually? How would you storyboard this scene if it were a fiction film? What's the language, what's the cinema language that you would use? What shots do you need to tell the story of this scene? To establish the location, to give the audience the idea of where they are, what's happening, what's the relationship between people in the scene, what's going on, you know. You're taking reality and you're making it into fiction language. But the fiction language is designed to immerse you in itself. And you're using this real situation to create cinema. And you can compete on exactly the same level as fiction film. It just depends on your filmmaking abilities now. You don't need a big crew. You don't need all these things that people think that you need in fiction filmmaking. You can make something that feels just as much like cinema, but using the materials of the real world. And for me, this is the exciting thing, that you don't have to be dependent. You no longer have to be restricted by money in the same way that has been the case in the past. You can be free now. And I think people haven't woken up to this reality, that you can make extremely high quality, from a technical point of view, high quality cinema, but you can do it on a micro budget, and you can do it the way you want to do it, you know, because of this micro budget. And it doesn't have to be more than that. And if you can, you know, if you don't need a translator in the place that you're filming, it could just be you with whatever small camera, and you can make a film that will be shown in movie theaters to millions of people if you're able to do it. So it's the back door into filmmaking in a way, the unguarded back door. No one can stop you from making a documentary, because when you're looking for a character, you want someone who is confident enough to say something, and also kind of, I'm looking for people who are sort of natural poets, you know, people who will say something that's beautiful without even realizing it. You know, and there are some people like this who they have a natural way of speaking, they're not afraid to talk, and you're looking for those people. If you're like me, so the narration for the film is going to come from these characters, these people that you find. So you need to find people, just like if you're making a fiction movie and you're casting the lead actor or actress, so you're looking for someone who can hold the attention of the audience, you know, who is interesting enough. And it's not always so easy, you know, to find the right person and to be able to film them. Like, a lot of things have to fall into place at once, you know, for you to have the subject and the location and everything that you want to have, you know. If you can have a subject that allows you to give the audience the feeling of seeing many different angles, that is like many different types of people, but all connected by some physical location, for example, like a school. So then you give the audience a kind of microcosm, a miniature version of the world. Sometimes the subject wants you to not film them, and you can feel it, even if they don't say it. And then you should move on, you know. You shouldn't really make people uncomfortable with your camera if you can avoid it, if that's not the way your film is. So, but you have to feel basically you want the longest possible shot that doesn't destroy your relationship with the subject, you know. As long as they're comfortable, as long as you feel that you're getting something real, something honest. At a certain point, that reality might break down. They might start to become very self-conscious about the camera being there so long, and they're like, you know, why me? Like, you know, especially in a place like Afghanistan, where people don't want to stand out from the crowd. You know, they want to be part of the group. So if you focus on one person, eventually they'll become nervous, or they'll become agitated, because they'll think that you're singling them out, and other people are looking at the fact that you're filming this person, and then it becomes uncomfortable. So I try to spread around the attention, you know, and film many different people. If I have a student in a class who's my main character, and I really only want material of that student, I'm not only going to film that student, because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable in their class. I don't want their other students to start picking on that person and say, "Wow, they're filming you only," and you know, you must be like a model or something like that. I don't know, whatever. You know, like, children can be terrible to each other, and you have to, in that kind of situation, sometimes I'm filming material that I know that I probably won't use it, you know, but I'm filming it because I'm trying to make it socially easier for my actual film subjects, you know, by filming a lot of other people as well, so that no one knows who the main subject is in the end. there's this psychological aspect to the way you film as well. If you're filming in like group situations, it can be, you know, that part of your job is to maintain a good relationship with your character that allows you to film them. So it might mean that you have to spread the attention. Mainly the most important ingredient that you can have is a lot of time. Because people get used to you, you know. People get used to almost anything. And if you are a nice, open person that people like, and they accept you with your camera, then eventually, if you make yourself a little bit invisible, you can tend to disappear. So you have to have a subject that you can live with. You know? And if it's people that you like and you're going to show them in a nice way, then you're always going to have a good relationship with them afterwards, unless they think that you made a lot of money and they didn't get any or something like that. But in general, it's better to have a good relationship with your subject and really to, you know, really respect them and to really like them, you know, because you'll feel it in the film. And if you're going to live with the film for that amount of time, it's really nice to have people in the film that you actually like. I think you, as filmmakers, you have to decide like what's really comfortable for you, what makes sense, because it's something you have to keep in mind that you have to live with this film for a long time, making it, and then after you make it, if it's any good, especially, people are always going to be asking you about it, and the people in your film will always be contacting you. The people I filmed in 1992 in Russia are still contacting me all the time on Facebook, you know, from 25 years ago. The people, I filmed them at the age of 13, and now they're like 38, and you know, grown people completely, and they're calling me and telling me their problems in life and so on. It's like you become I don't know, it's possible that you become this kind of trusted figure for them, you know, and you're not part of their life, so they can always, you know, you're sort of this approachable, non-dangerous person that they can always sort of like, you know, ask for advice or something. So anytime you make a film, you have to realize that it's like you're getting married, and you have to, you know, you have to live with this family even if you get divorced, you know, and they'll still be with you somehow. So it's like that. You have to be careful, like, what you get into as a project. I never had to run in Afghanistan. I think it's usually, it's kind of like, it's bad form to run, you know? It's like you look more guilty if you're running. People are more likely to shoot you if you're running than if you're like calmly walking. So my style is always to calmly walk. Like even if the bullets are going, you know, down the street, because then everyone knows it's like not related to me. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you're fighting, but I'm here doing my thing, and this is anyway. For me, it worked so far. Mainly, I had problems in you know, the Gaza Strip, for example, was really dangerous. Actually, Iraq was more dangerous. I felt like. In Gaza, the Israeli soldiers will shoot at you, and this is the most dangerous thing. Actually, not Afghanistan, I think. Well, like in a place like Kabul, the biggest danger is really that you'll be kidnapped, something like that. You know, because this happens a lot in Afghanistan. People are kidnapped for money or for different reasons. If they kidnap an American, they could sell them to some jihadi group and you know, make $20,000, $30,000 or something like that. So there's a danger. There's kind of like a price on your head all the time, on some level, and you can be protected just by having a good relationship with the neighborhood. You know everybody. You know their parents. They like you. Like that neighborhood, then all those people, they know who is a stranger, who is from the neighborhood, who is not from the neighborhood. And they will be the ones who protect you or not, you know. So you really have to have a good relationship with the people around you, and then those people will maybe protect you. This is the idea. By the time I was done filming in Afghanistan, I mean, everyone in the neighborhood knew me, you know. I would walk down the main streets and there would be people calling out my name from the shops. I have no idea, who they are, but they know who I am, And it could be dangerous, but in this case, it's kind of, I felt like it was safer that everyone knew who I was and accepted me, and as long as you have a good relationship with people, this is. But honestly, though, in war zones and these kinds of places, there's no guarantee, and really anything can happen, and you can't you shouldn't try to convince yourself that you're invincible or that you're invisible or that nothing can happen to you, because really, there's no protection. Bad things can happen to you, bad things can happen to the people you work with, to the people you're filming. So you have to be a little bit careful. Yeah, my preference is to keep shooting. Because unless someone is trying to kill you, so it's like your job to stay and record what's happening. I mean, you came all the way to Afghanistan, right? I mean, if something happens and you're there with the camera, your job is to film. Your job isn't to run away. It's the job of ordinary people to run away, but it's not your job. Your job is to film the people running away, to show what the life is like, what the atmosphere is like, Yeah, this is an interesting question, yeah, because it's a question about kind of like filmmaking morality, What is your job as a filmmaker, But then again, I mean, we're filmmakers, but we're also human beings, and we're human beings first, before we're filmmakers. And you're talking about a situation in a school where a teacher doesn't know how to do something. This is very innocent. I mean, you could film or you could not film. Okay, it's not a big deal in the end, But maybe it is a big deal to that teacher. They don't want to be embarrassed in front of the camera, and they will like you more if you help them and stop filming, and they'll have more trust with you, and maybe you'll have better material in the future. It could be like this. But it can also happen that you have to make these kind of moral decisions about whether to stop filming and to intervene in a situation that's really critical, like maybe it's a life and death situation. If you're filming in a war zone, and it could happen that you need to stop what you're doing and intervene in reality in order to save the life of someone, for example. To see real change in the real world is somehow exciting to the audience, and I think in a way that it's very difficult to replicate in fiction, In fiction, when people get older, it's through makeup, or they have another actor come in or something. In documentary, it's really happening, and it's somehow, I don't know. Yeah, the thing that people love in film and in stories really is this change, And so if you have a lot of time to film, then you can capture this change, and suddenly, without any story even, your film has a kind of arc because of the changes that happen over time, if you're patient enough, I mean. People are afraid of things they don't understand, and my whole idea is to make it familiar to them and make it easy for them to approach it, so that it would be as easy as Neo in the Nebuchadnezzar putting on his training module and experiencing this artificial reality, which gives him a real skill in the end. So the same thing with your audience. You may be giving them a fictionalized reality, you may be giving them a reality which is based on the real world, but what you're really doing is you're giving them an artificial memory, like a memory implant. It's something which they experience, your film. And it's like a version of the real world that you're creating for them. But they don't have this, like you have to put your mind in the head of the audience, and think like, what's important for the story, what's important for the film. And that's the thing that guides you, should be the thing that guides you to make your decision. Like to include this character and not that character, because it's somehow more interesting or more powerful, or it's somehow better for whatever reason to choose this road instead of that road, you know. But you have to make decisions. And directing is really all about just making decisions in a rapid way.